Welcome. Namaste, beautiful souls. Welcome to my channel. My name is Sadhana. Today, I am here to introduce a new deck deep dive series. And we are going to be talking about the Pholarchos Tarot by Carmen Sorrenti. And I want to welcome you to this chat. I have done many deck deep dives on this channel, and the links for each of those series is listed in the description box below. So if you want to see what decks we've already worked with, that's where you need to go. Have a look at those links. We've had some really amazing conversations, revelations, spreads that have developed, awarenesses, synchronicities between the decks that have been chosen. And I am so excited to dive into this next series. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Sadhana, and I am an intuitive reader. I am very active on YouTube, doing live readings on Tuesdays, sharing my perceptions, the ways that I work with tarot. Usually I have a tarot chat on Fridays, and I've introduced Wednesday evenings, usually 5 p.m. most weeks. I'm doing deck reviews and walkthroughs and things like that. So there's a lot that goes on this channel. So I want to welcome you in any way that you would like to participate. You are more than welcome. So hello to Tamian and Vanj. It's great to have you here for this inaugural video. And please know that tonight's video is public, and from next week, this will be a members feature, which most of the deck deep dive series have been. And you'll also see a hashtag called Hanged Man Decks in each of these videos. And this was a term that I believe I coined when I started this series. And this was with the intention of looking at these decks through a different lens, looking at these decks through multiple perspectives from a big point of view, from the view of the witness. And each deck deep dive is slightly different than the one before. While I do have a bit of a formula, each deck really asks different things of us, and the Philarcos is no exception here. All right. Good night, Lydia Ann. Quick wink and hello to you, and I hope you have a very restful sleep. And may you find your way into a beautiful dream that uncovers and opens something that is ready to be revealed to take you in to 2023 and a new part of your healing journey. Okay. And as I say that, I want to offer that wish to each and every one of you, and that in working with this deck, you have and develop a new relationship with your dreams. And we will talk about, can I say, the art of dreaming, different ways to work with the deck as well too, as we dive into the cards. I am not an expert on this deck. This is a deck that I have worked with since it came out in 2018. You'll see my copy has been trimmed, so it's been in my hands a lot. But I have what I say in this series comes from through my lens, through my experiences, through my perspective. And because this is a deck of dreamers, this is a deck of the Philarcos, it is really important that as we are working with this deck, that you are listening to your guides, that you are looking deeply into the pictures and allowing yourself to go where you need to go in each of the cards. This is a deck that is compiled of the creator's dreams, some of the creator's dreams, but not all of the cards have come from her dreams. We'll also talk a little bit about the difference in how the majors, aces, the courts were created versus the minor arcana. And so today what we're going to look at is simply the structure of the deck. We'll talk a little bit about the cards, and if you're interested in hopping into the series and you don't have the deck, I want to say this. There is a PDF guidebook which is presently available complimentary, and that is also linked in the description box below. So if you don't have the cards in hand, you can use the complimentary PDF, and you're going to get all of the colored illustrations in that PDF. It will be available until the print version of the book is available, and then I believe it will, it will disappear. The other thing I want to say is that there is, so the publisher of the decks, Arnell Ondo, who is the lovely soul who helped Carmen to put the deck together, put the design of the cards together, the box and so forth. The deck is available through her website in the US, and it is also available through Wasima's website in the EU. So it's available in 2 parts of the world for order. Okay. I believe at about 40 US dollars or so. All right. So there's the technical information. Okay. This is so exciting. I've been waiting to do this deep dive. Also, my intention is to have Carmen on this channel, probably for an interview once we get into the deck a little bit, as well to do a workshop with her once we get close towards the end of the series. All right. All right. So where to begin? The major arcana. And I want to remind you too that I have trimmed these cards. So I believe they come with a black border, which is quite square. The deck began with the creation of the High Priestess. So if I want to say that she is the muse of this deck. And we will, of course, look at each of the cards individually. We will look at the minors, the majors in relation to the associated minors. And we'll bring in lots of things that we've done in past deep dives as well, too, building layers upon layers. We will look at the elemental correspondences as well, for sure. There are Kabbalistic associations that are built in here, and Carmen does refer to the Kabbalah in her notes, and I'm referring to a presentation that she did at the IASD in 2018, the International Association. I'm not sure. It's IASD. So I have an essay from there, as well as the PDF that I just referred to, and we'll also build in notes from the guidebook that comes with the deck. So those are the 3 primary references that I'll be working with. And you can see that in what I see when I'm looking at the major arcana are various guides. These faces feel familiar. They feel, when I look at the Emperor card, it's haunting. And I personally did a reading recently where there was a lot of Native American energy that came through. And so as you are working with this deck, if there are cards that speak to you, I really encourage you to take them to bed with you and to begin conversations with them. Let's go to, hello to Michelle, welcome. Tamian has a question here. Is the PDF more expansive than the guidebook that comes with the deck? Yes, it is. It is much more expansive, and particularly in the minors, it goes into some of the details of the little pictures that are hard to read on the cards. So it's definitely worthwhile downloading that. Okay. It is my understanding that the major arcana, they were created from a completely saturated canvas, and the colors of the backgrounds were created first, and then the images appeared. So these are very complex works of art created on a large acrylic canvas. And one of the things I laughed, I've also linked a couple of interviews below, and that Carmen says, if you are creating a deck, make sure that you know what size you're printing your cards before you actually start painting, because you will lose some of your artwork. This is not a standard size tarot deck. Let me just address that as well too. I have trimmed the border. So here is a Centennial Waite-Smith, and you can see, so the width of the image, we can compare that, it's quite a bit wider. And then the length of the card is a little bit shorter. So it's more of an oracle size. Yeah. And the borders are not intrusive, they are black. And it was very early in my journey with this deck that I trimmed them, and it did tend, for me, it did definitely free the artwork. Hello to Tarot Geek. I need to just double check. And Urban Cattery, welcome back to you as well too. For those of you who I don't know your name, if you would like to be addressed by your name, let me know, and I will add you to my little list here. Tarot Geek, your name is not on the tip of my tongue. Dana, hello Dana. Okay, there we go. And Urban Cattery, you are not on my list. So if you'd like to share your name. Yes, Dana, I just checked. So I had your name down. It just wasn't on the tip of my tongue. And hi to Karen from Arizona, first time viewer. Lovely to have you here. Okay, you're Karen. Okay, I'm going to write that down. Urban Cattery. Sorry, bouncing as I'm typing here. Karyn. All right. There you go. I will do my best to remember. It's nice to know people's names. So yes, so here is another one. This is absolutely stunning. I have stared at this card many a time, and you'll also notice in the background of the Hermit card, we have an image of the card backs. The card backs are a blending of many, many dreams. And if you have the PDF guidebook, you will see the full painting. So you'll see the full painting of the wings. So this white little bit are wings, and then the full body. And so we will spend some time as well talking about the back of the cards and the symbols that are represented in the back of the cards. While I just place down the rest of the majors, let's just talk a little bit about the title of the deck. And I'm sure that those of you that have the deck have read the guidebook, the Philarcos. And if you listen to Carmen's pronunciation, I've been trying to catch it in my ear. So it's neither a P nor it is an F phonetically. It's a very soft sound when she says Philarcos, Philarcos. It's almost as if she says the P, Philarcos. And I will have to say Philarcos because I can't quite get that identical pronunciation that she has. So the Philarcos are guides which will appear to you as you are working with this deck. This deck takes us back to a time before dream temples. Dream temples were places where seekers, patients went for counsel, for healing. And either they would be led into dreams themselves, or priests or priestesses perhaps would dream for them. These were healing journeys. But before the dream temples, there were caves along the walls of the Mediterranean, from Turkey to Italy. I'm not sure about Spain, where people would go into these caves and have deep dreaming experiences. And the Philarcos were the ones, perhaps that was the name of the people who would go into the temple. So the Philarcos were the ones seeking healing through dreaming. It's not quite clear the origin of this name, and Carmen talks about it in a couple of different places. So again, we will talk about the Pholarchos, but the Pholarchos are also available to you in working with this deck and in your dreams as well. So you can see that the major, and I need to keep the Fool out here, are the major arcana. They're very different from the minors, fully saturated paintings, and there is a predominance of color. You know, you'll notice there's a blue is a very common color here, and I don't know about you if there is an association with that, with this color palette and dreaming. That's also something that I want to discuss, and as well as the darkness and the color black, the use of shadow, and how that plays into evoking dream work and transformation. Okay. Hello. Oh, you're fixing tacos, Patrice. Welcome. Welcome to the chat. Now, I want to also talk a little bit about why dream work. And in working with this deck, Carmen talks about this a little bit differently, but I'm going to talk to you about it from my perspective. And I think one of the things that this deck can do is it may take you to a familiar dream. It may trigger a memory. There may be something familiar in a card that will, and I'll use the word shadow in terms of, when I say shadow, I mean an issue, a samskara, a pattern that you have been working with, obviously in this lifetime, but probably in multiple lifetimes. So there's something in a card that is going to trigger a shadow. You may know this in your physical body as well too. So the idea here is that in the temple of your bed, in the dream temple of the place where you sleep, in the dream temple that you inhabit in the hours when you are not conscious, there is access available to these wounds, these shadows. And in working with this deck, we are able to begin to unpack and to know in a different way. Oh, I just got this beautiful feeling through my body. So in the dream temple of your bed, in the dream temple that you inhabit in your sleep, you will become familiar in a new way with an issue, a concern. Carmen also uses the word trauma, I believe, crisis, and all of these words may or may not resonate with you. But because I'm also coming to all of this work through a yogic lens, I simply feel that these are blockages, energetic blockages in the body. And we have a way, of course, through any tarot deck, but the intention with this particular deck is to channel these Philarcos guides to help us unpack these issues. Okay, so of course, we're going to dive a lot more into this as we go into the series. And what I want to do today is just really focus on just introducing the deck and some of the nuances that make this deck so very, very special. All right. The aces. The aces in this deck are black and white. This is the Ace of Coral. The suit names have been changed. Coral is the suit of water. And the trails, which are the equivalent of the knights, are also black and white. And we are actually going to begin the series working with the trails. There have been some, so this deck was published in 2018. This deck was a work in progress for many years before that. So the content of what you see in the PDF versus what you see in the little white book varies somewhat. And that has to do with the presentation of the suits, the order presentation of the suits. In the PDF, it is presented in the order of the Tetragrammaton, Wands, Cups, Swords, Pentacles, though that's not the name of the suits in this deck. It is introduced in a different order in the in this little book here. So we'll also be addressing that. But what you're seeing here on the table is the knights are the fourth court card. They are, and I don't even know if I could put a number on that, but the idea here is that the knights, which are called the trails, lead us into the ace. The knights in this deck act as guides themselves. They are the guides that open the trail. They guide us on the path into the journey of the ace through the king, or the ace through the 10. And one thing that we could do when we get to readings with this deck is simply use these cards as put them on the table as significators, as protectors. I don't know if any of you have worked with the Shaman's Oracle. In the Shaman's Oracle, this is one of the decks by, I was going to say John Matthews, but I don't think that's the right name. The Shaman's Oracle has some significator cards, and one of them is a protector card. And in a way, I feel that the knights in this deck work in that way. They guide us into the potential of the suit. So there's some special work that we can do here, and we'll start next week looking more closely at the trails. Okay, the trails, the knights. Okay. Ooh, I want to just highlight Tamian's comment here. My dream space has really amped up in the last 2 days, maybe in anticipation of this journey. Ooh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Okay. So this is one very special nuance of this deck. The rest of the cards are colored. The aces and the knights are black and white. However, these paintings were painted in full color. And I wanted to, actually, I'm going to read something to you. This is very interesting. This is from the essay that I was talking about that Carmen presented in 2018 in Scottsdale at the IASD conference. And she says this: to assist the journey, I have switched the knights in this deck to trails. They hold a special function as guides or psychopomps into the realm of the aces, or the one. The trails are liminal figures, and as such can take us quite far into other dimensions. Knights must always have missions. They are of service when they go out on their quests. So here the knights as trails or paths serve safe passage on our deep travels. They know how to navigate the territory. And I'm just going to skip down a little bit here. Philarcos trails and aces are in black and white to mark the world of possibilities before we choose something specific. Let us call it the turning at the crossroads. Ah, thank you. Thank you. So this is a very magical, intriguing aspect of this deck that we will dive deeper and deeper into. Excuse me. Now, another thing about the deck that is very interesting is that in each of the suits, we see, so this is the ace and this is the 10 of the suit of water. In each of the suits, we see a hoodwinked ace. And Carmen, rather than using the word blindfolded, addresses the aces as choosing to have put a hood over their eyes. And in the aces, she brings in the energy of Mercury and the idea of the trickster, and talks about it feels very much like a fool energy. Where is my fool? And you'll notice there is a similarity in the frequency, and this is a word I use all the time. I think it's a really brilliant word to use when we're having these kinds of conversations. So the aces, by choice, are hoodwinked. And then by the time we get to the 10, the hood is removed. There is a sense of integration, awareness. The experience of the suit is revealed in the eyes, through the eyes. So yeah, really, really cool interpretation and a way of expressing a concept here. Okay. Next. This is the suit of water. There is, in the journey of the miners, there is a crescendo. This is Carmen's word, a crescendo of color. So here is the 2, the 3, 4 of water, 5 of water, 6 of water, 7 of water, 8, and 9. And through the crescendo of color, we experience more fully, more deeply, the effects of the element. There is an aspect of alchemy that is built in here as well too. And again, associations with these cards to where they fall on the tree of life. So the aces would be up at Keter and working our way down. So the experience of the 10s, the frequency of the 10s would be down at Malkut. And so one of the things we can do, and I'm not going to go into deep Kabbalistic associations, but is to definitely look at the translation of the name of each of the Sephira and perhaps the planetary energy associated with that Sephira, and build in the connections with this, because there's intentional energy here. Now, another thing that Carmen addresses is that This deck was completely guided by the Philarcos. And I believe she said there were 33 paintings that were abandoned because there was something missing or they weren't quite right. And while this is a dream deck, and it was intentionally built on the structure of the tarot and the um, the history, the wisdom of the many layers of tarot, it also has this dream component to it as well too. So it's a very complex deck that we will I want to give a lot of space to. I want to give a lot of space to interpretation and say, not get hung up on, well, it really appears that the planetary energy it's loud and clear there. So the sixes, for example, sit at the center of the tree of life, where the sun is. And perhaps the sun will shine brightly in those cards. But when we get to the number 9, maybe we don't see the moon. The moon is associated with the number 9. So we're going to have a look at it and see where we can see it, but it may not necessarily. I don't want to. Where it is, we're going to acknowledge it, and where it isn't, we will just observe that it's not there. I can't tell you how excited I am to dive into this. So just as a recap, next week we're going to start with the trails. And so if you're going to join me on this series, I encourage you to read the section in the guidebook about the trails, to pull the trails out, maybe take some of the trails to bed with you, to maybe do some path working if you know what that means, and to really have a good look at these cards. I would suggest that before we begin each week, you reorder your deck so you can easily reference the cards. And also, I would encourage you to pull out the High Priestess. And she is another one that I want to have out around as a muse, because she definitely is the muse of the deck. She is where the deck began. So this is an important card to get to know, and she may very well reveal something to you as well too. So to have a really good look at her. Okay. So yeah, so that's it for today. And if you have requests, or if there's particular cards in this deck that have stumped you, or even after reading the PDF, you feel completely perplexed by, be sure to send me a note or something like that. And also, I would encourage you to give the deck a really good shuffle and to choose a card to draw a card that represents why this deck came to you. Because that will be an important card, I think, in each of our development of the deck. Okay. And I'm not going to do it now. I did this exercise and often do it with a new deck, but because I'm entering into a new experience with this deck, I'm going to draw a new card and do it again. And right now my deck is sorted, so it needs a really good shuffle. So I will have mine ready as well for next week. The Deck Deep Dive series alternates between 10 a.m. Pacific and 4 p.m. Pacific. And that is just, so if you go to my the channel page where there is that introductory video, it tells you which weeks are the 10 a.m.s and which weeks are the 4 p.m.s. And of course, you can watch the replays. That's always a possibility. The other thing you need to know is that if there is a 5th Wednesday in a month. Sometimes I do a 5th one, and sometimes I skip that, depending on what's going on with me. But for sure, there are 4 episodes a month in this, and I'm sure this will be this will probably be a 4-month series. Okay. So thank you so much for being here. I will be back on a little bit later tonight with day 3 of Kwanzaa, and I look forward to chatting with some of you then. Take good care. Namaste.